Our top story tonight, outrage as a woman is deemed unclean longer after giving birth to a girl than for a boy. Coming up, was Mary unclean after giving birth to Jesus? Is it possible that having God in your womb would make you unclean? And I speak to a very special guest.
Oh boy. Okay, so you're getting into sticky territory there. See, this is going to get into what you believe and what you think about your theology of the Virgin Mary.
Good evening, I'm Phil Bray. Tonight on the show, we interrupt our usual schedule to bring you a breaking story. Christians all over the world have been spotted celebrating a very important feast day today. If you're Roman Catholic, you might refer to today as Candlemas. If you're Eastern Orthodox, you probably call today the Feast of the Presentation of Jesus at the Temple. And if you're an Anglican in Australia, today's celebration is called the Presentation of Christ in the Temple. Phil Eamon has the story. Hi Phil, yes, I'm standing outside the temple where only moments ago a mother brought 2 turtle doves to the temple as a purification offering and presented her son to the priest. Thanks Phil. We were able to obtain some exclusive footage. These images have been released where a mother can be seen presenting her son to a priest. Phil, can you tell us what we're seeing in these images? Thank you, Phil. Yes, well, I can now reveal that the mother's name is Mary, and people are calling her Mary, the mother of the Messiah. Phil, why did this mother choose to bring her baby to the temple today? What's special about February 2nd? Yes, Phil, and that is the question on everybody's lips. Today is February 2nd, which means today is 40 days after Christmas. Now, we also have information that Mary is a Jew. And as an obedient Jew, after the birth of her son Jesus, she was bringing the purification offering, a sin offering to cleanse her from her impurity. So we celebrate the birth of Jesus on December 25, and 40 days later, on February 2nd, we celebrate Mary, mother of Jesus, presenting her son Jesus in the temple. That's right, Phil. According to the law of Moses, a mother was unclean after giving birth. And today, Mary, demonstrating her faithfulness as an Israelite, brought a sin offering. I'm here with my colleague Phil Bray from the channel Leviticus is Fun. Phil, a fitting story today. Yes, that's right, Phil. On Leviticus is Fun, we've been going verse by verse through the book of Leviticus. And serendipitously, this week, we are up to chapter 12, and chapter 12 describes the purification offering that a mother brings after the birth of a child. What a truly fascinating coincidence. Phil, what should people do if they want to catch up on more Leviticus fun? Oh, well, that's a great question. You can subscribe on YouTube on Leviticus is Fun. Thanks, Phil. You might be wondering why a woman was unclean after giving birth. This practice wasn't unique to Israel, and it isn't even unique to the Bible. Earlier, I spoke with Philly Stein. Yes. Israel's neighbours had similar purity laws and rituals for a mother after childbirth. One ancient Hittite text from about 2000 BC stipulates a 33-day seclusion period for a woman after childbirth, during which time food and water were delivered to her to avoid becoming ritually impure through contact. An ancient Assyrian code required ritual washing for a mother after childbirth to cleanse her from her postpartum blood. Then, she was supposed to bring an offering before she could re-enter the temple. An Egyptian text found in the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead forbids a mother from entering a temple for 42 days after giving birth. And in an ancient Ugaritic liturgy, we read about a purification rite for the mother of a royal heir, performed exactly 40 days after the birth, mirroring the 40-day period described in Leviticus chapter 12. Phil, in the Hebrew Bible, Leviticus tells us that a mother is unclean. but it doesn't tell us why. Yes, you're right, Phil. Leviticus does not tell us why a woman was unclean after childbirth. But let me give you some theories. Let's start with a positive. So, during a woman's flow of blood, she wasn't allowed to have sex. So, one positive is that an overexcited husband couldn't try and have sex during that time. The 40-day cleanliness period gave her a break, and it gave her body a chance to heal. She was, in a sense, forced to stay inside and recover from the birth. And it gave her time to nurse the child. According to Leviticus, it's specifically the blood that caused the mother to be unclean, and blood is associated with life. See Leviticus 17 or Genesis 9 for more on that. But blood could also make someone unclean. One theory is because losing blood meant that the life stuff had leaked out of your body. It had leaked out of its proper place, and life outside of its proper place is unclean. Jacob Milgram points out that some ancient theories say that sex fluid contains seed. And so if blood contained seed, losing blood was losing life. Menstruation and blood loss in childbirth was associated with death, and therefore impurity, because death is also associated with impurity. Another theory is that menstrual blood, and actually any sex fluid from either a man or a woman, is the barrier between life and death. So losing blood could result in death, but sex fluid could result in life. Mixing the two together could be considered impure. And that is an important thing to note, Phil. It's not only women, but men were also unclean after seminal emissions. So it is true that women's state of uncleanness was still much longer than a man's. Now, this might leave some of our viewers wondering, isn't that a bit discriminatory? Why did giving birth to a daughter make a mother unclean longer than if she gave birth to a son? Earlier, I caught up with Phil E. Piens, and a warning for sensitive viewers. The following clip discusses differences between male and female purity laws. According to Leviticus 12, a mother remained in her uncleanness 40 days after the birth of a son. But for a daughter, she was unclean for 80 days. Scholars don't agree on why this is the case, so we can't know for certain. But allow me to present some theories. One theory is that because a boy was circumcised on the 8th day, this meant he was introduced into the covenant community. So it could be that the act of circumcision sped up the process of being recognized as a cleansed covenant family member. Another theory is that girls will eventually menstruate. So perhaps after the birth of a girl, the mother takes time out to be unclean on behalf of both of them, for herself and for the daughter, who will, in the future, be menstruating. Jewish scholar and Bible translator Robert Alter suggests something a little different. He suggests that when Leviticus says, "She shall stay in the blood of her purity," that for the first 8 days her blood was impure, but for the 33 days after, her blood is pure blood. If read this way, then after the birth of a girl, the mother remains unclean for 2 weeks, the same period as her menstruation. Then, for the remaining 66 days, she must remain in her blood purity. So Robert Alter says that her blood is now pure. So if we agree with Robert Alter, he's saying that there is a longer period of her blood being pure after the birth of a daughter. Does Dad love a juicy steak but finds Leviticus a bit tough? It's Father's Day soon, and this is a gift your dad will love. A fresh look at scripture from the perspective of a qualified butcher. That's me. Hey, I'm Phil Bray, and Leviticus on the Butcher's Block is my new book. You'll find it online and at good Christian bookshops. And we're back. Phil Bray. Yes, Phil. Before the break, our guest spoke about a woman being unclean after giving birth. But what people might not realise is that after her period of uncleanness, she brought an offering to the tabernacle, or to the temple. And in some Bibles, that offering is called a sin offering. And this is the exact reason why I want to make people aware that these sacrifices, although they're sometimes called a sin offering, were not because a person had sinned. This mother had not sinned. And I see some people out there in internet land making these types of claims, but let me categorically say on record, this mother doesn't deserve punishment. An animal is not dying in her place. An animal is not taking the punishment that this mother deserves. She has just given birth, she's lost a lot of blood, and she needs time to recover. And so then she'll bring an offering to cleanse her from her impurity. And that's why some Bible translations call the sin offering the purification offering. Our top story today, Mary brought this exact offering. But did she need purifying? You're exactly right, Phil. Mary brings this exact offering, a sin offering. Did Mary bring this offering because she had sinned? No, definitely not. Luke says, when the days for their purification according to the law of Moses were completed, they brought Jesus up to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. When it says according to the law of Moses, is that referring to Leviticus chapter 12? Yes, Luke is referencing Leviticus here. And the point is, Mary wasn't bringing an offering because she had sinned. She was fulfilling the law. Luke says she came to offer a sacrifice according to what is said in the law of the Lord, a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. I'm just going to stop you there, Phil. Leviticus 12 actually says, when the days of her purifying are completed, whether for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the entrance of the tent a lamb for a burnt offering and a turtle dove for a purification offering. Good catch. Leviticus said to bring a lamb and a turtle dove, but Mary brought 2 turtle doves. She didn't bring a lamb. Or did she? But no, you're right to pull me up on that one, Phil, because Leviticus goes on to say that if they were poor and they couldn't afford a lamb, they could bring 2 birds, which is exactly what Mary did. Now, it's possible she did this because they were poor, or, as some church traditions say, she was humble. Thanks for that, Phil Bray. We cross now to our Leviticus correspondent, who right now is an expert in his field. Many churches around the globe are today celebrating this feast. In the Orthodox Church, a feast day called the Feast of the Presentation of Jesus at the Temple. Amber Marone is host of the YouTube channel When Deep Calls Deep. Amber is well studied in liturgical narrative and how the story of Israel forms the worship of the church today. I caught up with Amber earlier in the week. Amber, thanks for joining me. Luke records the event of Mary presenting Jesus after 40 days. But did we miss an earlier presentation? What happened to a boy at 8 days after birth?
At the 8 days, the presenting of a boy to be circumcised. So there's 2 different presentations of the infant Christ, but they're separated differently. So that's a separate thing. But both of them are recorded in Luke back to back because he is trying to show that even though neither one were necessary, both of them they did as intentional submission in obedience to God, following the law, the Torah.
So Luke is presenting Mary and Jesus both as being obedient to Torah, as faithful Israelites. Mary is following the law of Leviticus for her purification. But still today in the Eastern Orthodox Church tradition, mothers have a similar period of uncleanness. And then there's a ceremony where they are, cleansed so they can come back to church?
So mothers 40 days after they give birth are churched back in to the Orthodox Church. So we still practice this. But I know in the Orthodox Church, they do it for several of the same reasons, is that it gives the mother time to rest and recover. It gives the family time to bond, and it gives the community the opportunity to serve the family by bringing them food and leaving them alone and all that stuff. So it has several functions of the setting apart. And then when it's time for them to come back, because she still hasn't done the ceremonial cleansing to remove the taint of dead blood, then she has to bring her offerings and be cleansed from that taint of death.
Just like Mary. That is a rich heritage that you're participating in. Amber, do you have a theory as to why women might be unclean after childbirth?
The way that birth works, physiologically, biologically, the afterbirth is that blood that was giving life to the infant that doesn't hold life anymore. So it's dead blood. So since you have passed dead blood, you are tainted with death. So you need to go in and be cleansed of the death so that you can be ritually clean because of the death, not because of sin, because of death.
Right, and that's an important distinction. It's not a sin. It's ritual impurity because of an association with death. Now, Amber, I'm a little confused. When Jesus touched a dead woman, she came back to life and sat up. And when a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years touched Jesus' clothes, she was immediately healed. If contact with Jesus removes impurity and even removes death, was Mary really unclean after having Jesus inside her womb?
Oh boy. Okay, so you're getting into sticky territory there. See, this is going to get into what you believe and what you think about your theology of the Virgin Mary. Birth is looked at as life and creation imagery.
Because Jesus is God. We both believe that. That's an essential Christian belief. And Jesus was fully God and also fully human. That's why Mary is called the Theotokos, or Mother of God. Because in the womb, Jesus was God. Jesus is always God, even in the womb.
The in utero Christ was fully human and fully divine. So you have to wrestle with, where does life start? What does that mean? And if he's fully human and fully divine, is he always fully human and fully divine? Conception to resurrection. Like, there's a lot of Christology and Trinitarian theology built into this idea here. So assuming that life begins at conception, he's conceived by the Holy Spirit, and we're not going to become heretics by removing either the full divinity or the full humanity of Christ. There's something to the Virgin Mary carrying around full divinity in her womb for 9 months that's going to make her consecrated with God's divine holiness. So she's got Shekinah in there somewhere.
Which is possibly why Luke stresses her obedience to the law, rather than her bringing an offering to remove impurity.
She wouldn't need it, if only just because she's been carrying God around in her womb for 9 months.
Now, in the Orthodox Church, there are 2 seasons that surround Christmas Day, right? 40 days preparing for Christmas, or Nativity, and 40 days after Christmas, which is the 40 days of Christmas, or the 40 days of Nativity. Have I got that right?
We have 40 days of fasting to prepare for Nativity, and then Nativity lasts for 40 days. That's 40 days between Christmas Day and the feast. So it's the end of the Nativity cycle there.
Thank you very much, Amber Marone. Today, February 2nd, marks the end of the Christmas season, and it ends with a feast. A feast where we remember Mary presenting Jesus at the temple. But today, we remember that the child presented for purification is the one who will himself purify the whole world. Thanks for joining me tonight, and thanks to all of our special guests. Tonight I'll leave you with a quote from St. Andrew of Crete, who was a Byzantine bishop, and in around AD 700, he gave a sermon on the presentation of Christ, or as he calls it, the meeting of the Lord. He who is ancient of days becomes a babe in the flesh. He who is the giver of the law was made subject to the law. The uncontainable God is held in the arms of an old man.